Hello, welcome to Department Spotlight, where we go inside the many county departments that make our county the great place it is. I'm here at Child Support Services with the director, Carrie Topliff. Welcome to the show, Carrie.
Thanks, Lyle.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about the history of the Department of Child Support Services?
Sure. Well, child support has been a legal obligation of both parents going all the way back to 1872 in California. In the 1950s, however, it was noticed that a lot of families that were applying for welfare needed that extra assistance because one of the parents was absent and not contributing to the family's support. So at that time, the welfare department got involved with trying to collect from those absent parents. Unfortunately, they weren't the best at being collectors, and the average amount that they got was only $19 a year per family. So sometime in the 1970s, the program was moved into the district attorney's office so that there would be a little bit more collection power behind those efforts. We have been a standalone department outside of the district attorney's office since 2000. And what our efforts entail is both establishing parentage for the child and then helping to determine what a fair amount of support is for each of the parents to contribute.
What exactly do you do to help? What does the department do to help with the child support process?
Well, I think those are the basics, is establishing parentage and collecting and distributing support. Then, of course, if there is support that is past due, we will also try and collect that money. And in those cases, we have a lot of enforcement remedies that are available to us.
Well, there's a lot that goes into the process of establishing child support, and we wanted to learn more, so we went out and spoke with Child Support Services staff and other key players in the process to find out what the steps are from the very beginning to the very end. In the first step of the child support case process, the Department of Child Support Services is contacted to open a case.
We are here to do three things. We establish paternity, we establish a child support amount, and we established a health insurance order.
Well, there are two ways that we open cases. One way is the parent will contact us and they fill out an application, and either the non-custodial parent or the custodial parent can request a case be opened. And the other way is we get a referral from the Department of Social Services when a child is on Medi-Cal or cash assistance.
Next, a Child Support Services worker interviews the parent, also known as the custodial parent, who wants to open the case.
So they would come in here and they would simply say, I'd like to open up a child support case, and we would hand them the packet and they would fill it out. Other folks come in here not knowing anything about child support, and the first thing they want to do is they need to talk to somebody about what they need to do. They don't get it, they don't understand it, they may be in a relationship and they may not be in a relationship, and they just want to know if this is something they should be doing.
We also ask for what's called an income and expense declaration, and on that it indicates if you own your home, if you are renting, your utilities, approximately what you're spending for food, childcare, and any job-related expenses you might have, versus incoming money being maybe through Social Security, unemployment, or if you're receiving spousal support or child support from another relationship or family.
They're asked questions about themselves, confirming addresses, phone numbers, employment information. They're asked questions about the non-custodial parent, same thing, address, Social Security number, last known employer. And then they're also asked if there's a current court order in place so that we can request a copy from the courts.
Well, as we do other types of cases besides just County of Santa Barbara versus cases, we do child support outside DCSS, even though mostly we partner with DCSS on that, and that is that if you had, for instance, a divorce and you already had an agreement on child support, we can mediate the child support ahead of time, but that's assuming that there's no county aid involved. We can mediate child support, or we can help people we can write a stipulation. But basically what we are is, if we're working with the Department of Child Support Services, once the opening packet is done, we're out of the loop for a little while.
Legal paperwork is then filed against the non-custodial parent for child support and insurance. In step 4, the non-custodial parent is located and served with legal paperwork, also known as a summons and complaint.
We have extensive locate tools that we use. Initially, we contact the other parent because a lot of the times they may be working under the table or just doing what they can to avoid us, and usually the other parent knows the history or they know how to locate them, whether it be serving them at a place of employment that they're just not gainfully employed at. Sometimes it's an address that we know is a good address, but we can't reach them at. So we can request maybe a picture of them, and the process server will go out and try different times of the day to try to reach them.
Well, if they're not located and we have no address whatsoever, then the case kind of goes into a holding pattern until we do locate them. We again contact the custodial parent because they're the best person to provide that information, but we also have locate sources, many different government agencies that will provide us with information about that person.
The summons and complaint is essentially a legal document requiring the parties to adhere to the court system, essentially telling them that the court is now involved and we're going to get a child support order. And the child support order, there's a copy of it, it's called a proposed child support order, and that's attached to the summons and complaint so they can see what the proposed child support amount will be. And there's also very detailed information on how that number was acquired.
In step 5, the non-custodial parent has 30 days to take action on the summons and complaint they were served. At this point, the non-custodial parent can take one of two actions. They can either refuse to take action on the summons and complaint, or they may speak with a worker to reach an agreement, or may go to court to discuss issues.
So if you came in to see us and you were sued for child support and they had your income correctly, they had the number of children, and they had the percentage of time correctly, if it was all correct and you had no disagreement with it at all, sometimes it's as easy to either just call them and say, I'll come in and sign, or we'll call and say he's willing to agree or stipulate to that amount, or it could go to default, meaning you don't have to do anything and they're still going to get this order. If we have someone that says, I'm not paying this, I'm not doing anything, I'm not going to get involved, that would go to default. But usually what we do is we help them to file an answer or a response to that complaint. So it doesn't go to a default judgment or it doesn't go to an agreement, it actually has to go to court and be heard by the commissioner.
After the non-custodial parent speaks with a worker to reach an agreement or go to court, an agreement is reached and becomes a court order.
If the Department of Child Support Services is involved, I hear the case. Sometimes the cases are within another case, like a divorce case, where they're talking about custody and pension plans and all that kind of stuff. The portion that addresses the Department of Child Support Services collecting the support is moved out of the trial court and heard by me. So I have total jurisdiction to hear all Department of Child Support Services matters. And
they will go into her courtroom where she'll then hear how the department, the factors that the department has come up with for how many children, the percentage of time each parent spends with a child, the parent's gross income, or basically whether income needs to be imputed or not. And there's a series of factors that they will impute, those being the most important, and guideline calculation will spit out from the guideline calculator.
Before we had a state guideline, judges were allowed, and that was their job, to determine what the child support would be in a given case. And so you could end up where, I don't know, the father makes $5,000 a month and the mother makes $3,000, and one judge might order the father to pay the mother, I don't know, $500, and someone else might order nothing. It was very inconsistent from courtroom to courtroom and day to day within the same courtroom. So some years ago, I'm going to say 20 years ago, the theory came that there would be a standard way of computing child support. It went through a couple of permutations, but the current computation has been pretty much the same for at least 12 to 15 years. There are some movements to modify it a little bit, recognizing the cost of living has changed, and what is low income has changed over that period of time.
If the non-custodial parent doesn't take action with the summons and complaint, an order is filed by default.
Child support has 30 days in just like any other lawsuit, and should Dad X get served and ignore the paperwork or choose not to respond, then 31 days later the Department of Child Support Services, at the time they're served the paperwork, they also get a proposed judgment, which is, this is what your judgment is going to say. And then that judgment becomes an actual judgment signed by the court or by the judge that says you're ordered to do this.
After an order is filed, a garnishment is sent to the non-custodial parent's employer to deduct child support.
The first thing we do when it comes to enforcement is send an income withholding order. The income withholding order basically send it to the employer, and the employer is in charge of withdrawing it from your income and sending the payment to the state disbursement units. So the state disbursement units then distributes to the family.
We keep track of how much money they're paying towards child support, so later on there's no dispute as to how much did he pay, he said, she said. Those scenarios never develop. We keep track of everything, so it's to his best interest that an outside agency actually tracks how much child support is being paid.
If you are self-employed, so that you're your own paycheck writer, or you work for cash, or you have some other kind of issue about how you're paid, then essentially it's up to you to make those payments.
After an order is filed and a garnishment is sent to the non-custodial parent's employer to deduct child support, Department of Child Support Services workers monitor for payments.
We are that third party who can handle the monies and also record keeping. We keep, as long as there's a case here, we keep good records of payments received. Or if a person has an existing court order and they would like it modified, we can help them with that as well.
We can generally do a modification and have it on calendar within a week or so, as long as the person will come and see us once or twice. Whereas the Department of Child Support Services, when they get it, they're not representing anybody and they're not helping the person represent themselves, which is our role. So they need to gather all the information from one parent and from the other parent, which takes a lot longer. And they're really good about putting it on calendar when they have a request. But in a lot of circumstances, if there's a more exigent reason to get it on faster, they'll either partner with us or we'll partner with them, because we can help the person put it on faster. But it's a job we both do.
If no payments are received or the payments are inconsistent, administrative or legal action may be filed for non-payment. Some administrative or legal actions include a levy, tax intercepts, driver's license suspension, or contempt of court.
If you're ordered to pay child support, you don't pay it, one of the possible penalties is to spend time in jail. 5 days for each month you didn't pay the support. So if you're looking at jail time, those folks do have the right to an attorney, and if they qualify, it can be the public defender. And so the public defender is available or present at all contempt calendars. 3 afternoons in Santa Maria and 3 afternoons in Santa Barbara each month. I hear contempt matters, and the public defender is present.
One of our biggest tools that we have is the DMV or any other Department of Consumer Affairs licenses. We have the ability to suspend those licenses, whether it be a driver's license or a contractor's license, a sales license, any of those types of things. And we get a good response from that, because they get a notice from the Department of Consumer Affairs or DMV indicating that if they don't comply with their court order, then they will have the intent to suspend within, sometimes it's 90 days, sometimes it's 180 days.
For instance, if you come and see us and you say, I'm having trouble paying my child support, I have a letter that they're going to take away my license. The DMV sent it because child support asked them to take away my driver's license. But I found that if I could keep my license, I'm going to be able to go back to work. We can help broker the deal. And also, if you're dragged into court for having your bank raided, it's called a bank levy, or losing your license or whatever, we can also help put it on calendars saying there should be an exception. You know, like I really shouldn't lose my license, they made a mistake, or it doesn't, you know, it's not really the mistake issue, so that I can correct it more or less. If you went through the Department of Child Support Services and you've never spoken to a facilitator, things went very smoothly with the department, and you're in court because of either an adjustment or non-payment, the facilitator's there to explain to you what's going on. If there's a contempt action, there's essentially a possibility of 5 days in jail for each month that the child support order isn't completely paid because it's a contempt of court.
However, my goal is really not to put people in jail, it's to get the child support coming. So if I can see a remedy, an avenue that someone not go to jail but instead be ordered to aggressively seek work or join the job group at the EDD or something and give them a chance to see if they can get a job, or maybe get a little part-time job or some short-term jobs and pay something. I would rather keep the person on probation and have them pay something than send them to jail and have them still owe the money.
Once all child support is paid, the case is considered closed.
We're here to serve the custodial parents and the non-custodial parents. We are not here to go after one person for money. We want to help the children be successful, and we want to just basically help them in any way we can.
It's a very, very rewarding job, and although sometimes we do have the irresponsible parents, but we have many responsible parents who love their children and they don't mind paying their support.
We like doing what we do because it's sort of a white hat, as they say, that first of all we're free, and in this day and age it is very difficult for most people to be able to afford legal services. Anyone can come in and get our help, and we can impart the knowledge that we bring to the child support process so that they get a fair and accurate child support order.
The work of the child support department is good work, that they are doing things. More child support is paid now than was ever paid 20 or 30 years ago. I think there's more of a drive to get people to be in a position where they can pay child support and not just a blanket order the highest amount you can and, you know, throw the non-payer or the person that isn't paying the full amount to the wolves. This position requires a lot of patience to hear people out, and as they're kind of meandering to their point or telling you things that they think are really important that really are not relevant, but still to give everybody a chance to feel heard. And when the person feels heard and recognizes that the court is interested in the children and the process, I think we see more voluntary payments because of the court system as it now exists.
You're helping children. That's really what we do. When you take away the bureaucracy and the interviews, what are you left with? You're left with what we do is help support kids, and that's quite fulfilling. It's better than anything else I've ever done. I've been here about 20 years now, and I really enjoy this work.
Welcome back to the program. So the process of establishing child support has changed dramatically over the past few decades. What are some of the current trends that we're seeing?
Well, I think one of the most exciting things that we're seeing is the linkage of all the counties of the state of California into one unified network, which was accomplished in 2008. Because of that, people can receive child support services no matter where they move in the state. There are a number of people who have multiple cases all over the state, and now their payments all go to one centralized collection and disbursement unit, and they're prorated amongst their families if there is more than one family. So all that has really helped with customer service, as have our electronic websites, 24-hour telephone lines, and so forth.
So what are some of those electronic tools that customers can use to deal with the process?
Well, We have a statewide telephone line that's available, staffed by human beings from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. We have a website where people can have their own personalized confidential access to all their account information. And of course, that's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then we have an office here in Santa Barbara and one in Santa Maria where people can come to see us between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Thursday.
So has the economy had any effect on how Child Support Services does business?
Well, one of the things that we need to do is have an order that is fair based on the current circumstances. And typically we reevaluate those orders every 3 years, but in a climate such as this, we have to look at those a lot more frequently because people's situations do change very dramatically. As an example, we've seen a 5-fold increase in the number of child support payments that are coming to us as a deduction from unemployment insurance. Because it's limited how much of an unemployment insurance payment you can take for child support, often that is not the same amount as what is owed every month. So in those cases, we have to do a new economic evaluation to come up with an amount that's fair in the current circumstances. And obviously that does create a lot of extra work for our staff.
Okay. And why is Child Support Services so important?
Every child needs to be supported by both their parents. Children who don't get support from both parents are 4 times more likely to live in poverty and have a very difficult start in life. In our business, we see the gamut from parents who are willing and able to those who are unwilling and unable, with willing and unable and unable and unwilling in between. So often if parents are cooperating, they think that they don't need our services. Well, we can still provide a very valuable service. When people work together for the benefit of their children, we can be the financial middleman that handles all of the issues around the collection and disbursement of their funds. We have electronic systems available. The vast majority of our payments and collections are done through automatic bank debits. So the money transfer is very fast, and the parents can put that out of their mind and concentrate on the other very challenging aspects of parenting. And then if situations change and they do have to return to court for a change in their support order amount, we can handle all the paperwork with our attorneys. And obviously it's a complicated system, and having experts do it is really helpful.
Okay. What kind of links does Child Support Services have with programs like CalWORKS?
Well, our program was started to collect money from absent parents to reimburse the welfare system for grants that they needed to make to families. So we still are mandated to open a case anytime a family applies for public assistance through the Social Services Department.
Okay. So if anyone wants to get in touch with Child Support Services or open a case, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, we have our office in Santa Barbara at 4 East Carrillo. We have an office in Santa Maria at the Town Center Shopping Mall. And then we have a statewide telephone line at 866-901-3212. And you can also reach us through our website at County of Santa Barbara, which will link to an electronic application process.
So we've been here the past half hour, and I've noticed this jar of rice sitting on the table the whole time. Can you tell me about that jar of rice?
Well, I like to keep this handy. I have a grain of rice here to represent each case that we handle in Santa Barbara. So it keeps me focused on how much work we have to do, and also the reminder that a lot of families aren't eating unless they're getting their child support. And so what we're doing really means a lot.
And so how many years of rice is that right there? Is that just this year, or is this?
This is our current caseload, which is 16,000.
Wow. Well, thank you for being on the program. It was very educational, and just want to thank you again for your service to the county and the whole department service to the county.
Thank you, Lyle.
And thank you for joining us. If you want to call us with any questions, you can reach us at 568-3420. Thanks for watching CSB TV Channel 20, your channel for county news and information.